Hello, my name is Annalisa, and this is my presentation which reflects back upon my professional development as it has grown over the course of this class as required for this workshop. This presentation takes into consideration the activities and assignments for this specific course, as well as additional concepts that I have gained insight to through other courses in the fulfillment of the overall MA in TESOL from VIU. In this presentation, I will provide updates on my perceived strengths and areas for improvement as a teacher, my short and long-term goals, and my priorities and strategies for professional development. I will then reflect on specific activities that I took place in during the semester and how those activities have contributed to my growth as a language education professional and the impact that this has had on my career. Finally, I will give advice to others that are interested in pursuing a similar activity. Originally, I listed my perceived strengths as having a professional and in-depth understanding of English, having a knack for simplifying complicated linguistic aspects for my students, quick adaptation to changing situations, and humor that I can bring to a classroom. However, after undergoing APLX 615, I am moving to strike the first item from the list, as that course has shown me that I know much less than I thought I did, and that I have much to improve upon before I can make this claim. Instead, this is moving into the areas for improvement as a teacher, as I will continue to educate myself in the areas that I now know need more attention in order to gain true mastery. From this overall degree, I've realized that I need to improve my understanding of advanced grammar aspects and understanding of advanced linguistic aspects. These areas I have an average understanding in, but I wish to enhance it further until I have a sophisticated grasp on all of the finer points. Additionally, I also still feel that my grasp of curriculum design needs development and is something that I am seeking to actively progress. Addressing my short-term goals first, I am happy to report that I have come to conclusions on all three of them. Through the mandatory observation, collaborative lesson planning, and supervised teaching requirements for this class, I have been able to reach out and form bonds with other ESL professionals, as is my first short-term goal. Through my tutoring, both private and through the Survival English class created for university students and faculty members, I have been able to reach out and offer a service to those in the community who wanted it. This enabled me to realize my second goal of integrating myself into the local community. Finally, I have come to a decision on my next step. At this time, I do not have an interest in pursuing a PhD, as I do not feel that I am at a point in my life where I can dedicate the time and effort needed to fulfill this, nor do I have the means of pursuing another master's degree. Instead, I would like to make the current credentials work for me as they can and focus on other areas of my life for a while in the effort of pursuing different life-enhancing ambitions outside of work. This leads into my long-term goals, as the first one was deciding upon the next step in my career and education. At the close of this degree and all that it has entailed, I find that my next step takes me toward life goals rather than work or education goals. For now, I am going to put a pause on moving forward with additional degrees and focus on other areas of interest. My second long-term goal of teaching at a university in Singapore is still a huge interest to me. I recently was able to make contact with some connections in Singapore and have set things in motion to make the move there within the next 2 years. My final long-term goal of presenting at an international conference is still too far off in the distance to really see if it has changed much, though it has been pushed back by my decision to not pursue a PhD at this time. I feel that I would need this level of experience in order to be any sort of expert worth listening to at an international conference of other colleagues in my field. My priorities and strategies for professional development have seen updates as well. I have effectively found a mentor at the university I currently work at who has proved beneficial in my search for additional feedback on my teaching practices. With this newest addition, I have found that her guidance has really helped me to attune my methods to the needs and abilities of my students in ways that I hadn't been able to before. Her insights have helped me greatly in connecting with my learners and creating an effective lesson for them. I also plan to continue learning at every possible opportunity, which means attending conferences and meetings of professionals in the field every year, reading current research and literature as it is published, and constantly reflecting upon my own teaching techniques in order to improve them for future students. I found that the most helpful activity during this course was getting the feedback of my colleagues on my own teaching practices. This largely contributed to my growth as a language education professional because it allowed for personal, constructive criticism where improvements were needed, as well as recognition where it was due. This helps me to see from an outside perspective what my strengths and weaknesses are, which in turn impacts my methods and techniques used in the classroom. This impacts my career by allowing me to play to my strengths and enhance those areas that need it in order to be the best teacher that I can be for my students. Another activity that I found to be immensely helpful in my improvement was being allowed to watch other teachers in their classrooms as they taught. Observing these teachers was helpful to me in terms of expanding my understanding and conceptions. This was an excellent way for me to experience other means of teaching similar subjects and students to my own, and to see how the students responded to various approaches. I was able to objectively weigh what was beneficial to the students and what may have been a distraction, and then use that knowledge in my own classroom and approaches. I plan to continue this activity whenever possible, as I found learning from others as they teach to be insightful, and it opened my mind to many different concepts that I hadn't thought out before. If I were to give advice to other teachers that are interested in pursuing either observation or supervised teaching as an activity, I would stress keeping an open mind. It is human nature to take offense when being critiqued, or to compare yourself to others when observing them in order to find their faults in comparison to your own. This is not helpful in bettering yourself as a teacher and needs to be put aside if any good is to come from either activity. Instead, I would impress upon those interested that the key to gaining the most from these activities is to go into either of them with an open mind. Listen to guidance that is offered when you have been observed, and look for opportunities to learn and grow when you are doing the observing. Negativity has no place on the path to becoming a better version of yourself. As I come to an end in both this course and the MA degree as a whole, I have come to realize a few things. Perhaps the most important lesson that I have learned is that I still have a long way to go and many more things to learn. Although I have made a lot of progress and gained some valuable insights through the classes that I have taken, I have mostly come to understand that there is much more for me to learn still. I am hopeful that if I continue my current practices of self-study and independent research into areas that I am lacking in, I may come to master them over time and develop my methods, techniques, and overall knowledge as well. Thank you for your time and for your consideration as you have listened to this presentation. I look forward to hearing your thoughts and suggestions as to my improvement in the future.